Holger worked as a perfusionist for many years at a hospital. Since 3 years ago, he went into industry to also with a German distributor for perfusionist equipment. And since a short time now, he's started a new career as a journalist and will give a talk about the issues of low temperatures in emergency medicine and in medicine in general. I'm very pleased to have him here. Thank you, Holger.
Hello, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the nice introduction. But at first, excuse me, it's not a scientific talk. It's more. I want to take a journey through time. In 1883, Theodore Bilrose, one of the world's most famous surgeons, has been told about the presentation of a living dog with a sutured cardiac wound at the 11th International Medical Congress in Rome, and answered what you can read here. A surgeon who tries to suture a heart wound deserves to lose the esteem of his colleagues. And only 3 years later, Stephen Patchett, a coeval British authority in surgery, agreed with him and thus pointed out what most of his colleagues thought at the time. But already in the same year it could be stated by Dr. Sherman, the direct route to the heart is only 2 or 3 inches long, but the cardiac surgery took 2,400 years to traverse it. What was happened? You get right. The first successful operation of the human heart was done in Frankfurt by Ludwig Rehm on September 9. So the ice was broken, a rapid development began, led to the Ice Age in cardiac surgery and rescue medicine, and finally led me to Goslar today. Two French scientists have first explored and described the underlying principles. Jean-Dominique Larrey, military physician and personal physician to Napoleon, and Jean-César Legalois, physiologist and lecturer at the Paris Medical School, one of the most famous at this time. And here's what Larrey noted during the pollen campaign. Soldiers with freshly operated or even amputated legs or arms survived better if they did not sleep close to the fireplace, if they had to sleep in the snow. Not only one patient, not only in an anecdotic episode, was a scientific research. And here's a conclusion of Legalois' experimental work, drawn by himself. If one could supply a heart continuously with arterialized blood, no matter if natural or artificial, there's no doubt that life may be extended endless. Imagine, 1812, not 2006, 200 years ago. And based on these fundamental words, two surgeons, Bill Bigelow and John Gibbon, have developed two competing concepts for that upcoming surgical discipline called cardiac surgery. Let's start with Bigelow. He was a Canadian physician, and Canadian winters may be as hard as in Poland at Napoleon's time. After World War II, he returned to Toronto and, using Larrey's notice, focused his research on hypothermia primarily as a means of anesthesia and examined the effect of cold on the metabolism of groundhogs and dogs. The technique was pretty archaic. A simple basin served as an ice bath to cool the entire body. This animation may show you how it works. But rapidly he developed a more comfortable technique. This picture is A, an catheter electrocardiograph, B, an electric stimulator, the first cardiac pacemaker. It was a side effect of his research. He developed the first cardiac pacemaker. C, a thermometer. D, it's the oxygen tank. E, there are cooling blankets that covers the dog. F, a blood pressure manometer. G, 1/2 of the diathermic rewarming cabinet. This one. And H, the refrigerating machine. However, Bigelow did not have the privilege to be the first to try out his technique in humans. This was done by Dr. Lewis in 1952, September 2nd. He closed an atrial defect of a 5 years young female patient. The body was cooled with such a technique for 90 minutes down to 26 degrees, which is 79 Fahrenheit, I think, followed by 58 minutes operation time, including 6 minutes cardiac arrest and 35 minutes rewarming time. First successful operation under hypothermia. As a side effect, I already told, he has developed the first cardiac pacemaker to overcome the ventricular fibrillation that occurs regularly during rewarming. All in all, a very fascinating life's work written by himself and published 1984 as Cold Heart. One of the two competing concepts has been established. Let's see what the other surgeon did, the American John Gibbon. For 18 years, interrupted by World War II, assisted by his wife and by IBM, he developed the principles of the artificial circulation inspired by Legalois prediction. 18 years to develop this machine. He used it 3 times, 1 time successful, and then he stored it and other teams continued. What he did: systemic circulation with an artificial circuit, as you can see here, make sure that blood may flow through vessels and reach peripheral organs while the heart is clamped. There's one clamp and the blood comes out via the great veins. The pump, the gas exchanger, and back to the aorta. That's all. Very simple. These are Mary and John Gibbon with the first well-working heart lung machine. Heavy, huge, very sophisticated, inner life with pumps and tubes and valves and connectors, but it worked. And in the early 50s of the last century, 2 German surgeons, after World War II, started with cardiac surgery in this country. Rudolf Zenker in Marburg believed to Gibbon and started with perfusion, and Ernst Derrer in Düsseldorf followed Bigelow and used hyperthermia. It looked like that. Don't think about sterility. The equipment did not differ from other clinics. Very fast cooling blankets have been developed using Bigelow's model and were perfused by ice-cold water. However, surface hypothermia needs time, anesthesia was still difficult, the gas man had only a few tools, and surgeons are impatient people. I think you can imagine that cooling the blood directly would be more efficient than cooling the skin. At the end of that century, Charles Drew from Westminster Hospital, London, published a unique perfusion technique. Taking into account that the heart and lungs are connected in series, he used quadruple cannulation and 2 coupled pumps to bypass only the heart, to keep the lung in, thus to avoid an artificial oxygenator. Very sophisticated technique that has found only limited distribution, because with the means of the time it was quite impossible to synchronize the left heart pump and the right heart pump to avoid the volume overload of the atrial cavities. But Drew and his team brilliantly handled this technique. This slide shows the perfusion and the temperature record of their first patient, a 12-month-old Mongol infant with multiple enormities. The preparation for bypass has taken about 45 minutes, starting here. And then they started the left heart bypass at 150 milliliter per minute and cooled the blood. 15 minutes later, the pharynx temperature dropped from 36 down to 26 degrees. And the heart had slowed considerably at the right heart bypass was started too. The pump flow was set at 450 to 500 milliliters per minute to keep a mean blood pressure of 80 millimeters mercury, and they continued cooling down in 27 minutes. When the temperature was 15 degrees, they stopped both pumps and performed the real operation within a rest time of 45 minutes. And you can see rewarming takes much longer. However, combining both concepts, perfusion and hypothermia, was only a matter of time. And of course, an industrially manufactured disposable appeared on the market that combined a hollow fiber oxygenator and a stainless steel heat exchanger, in one housing. It was 1964. A modern refrigerating machine looks like this two-tank heater cooler device from Stockard Instruments in Munich, and may cool water in 3 minutes from 36 down to 18 degrees in about 3 minutes. And a modern state-of-the-art oxygenator, Primus from Sorin Group in Italy, in contrast to the Central from 1964, truly integrated, with only 0.14 square meters heat exchanger surface, is able to use this cooling power and can cool down the 5 to 6 liters blood in an adult down to 18 degrees in approximately 20 minutes. Depending on its own performance factor, calculated by good approximation, is eta equals blood outflow temperature minus blood inflow temperature divided by water inflow temperature minus blood inflow temperature. And this is how perfusion with normal or hypothermia looks today, or almost today. The guy who shows you the back, now it's the front, is me, 2006 at the Martin Luther University Hospital. And in the same year, 2006, we moved some perfusion equipment from the cardiothoracic unit to the cardiologist's intensive care unit and established therapeutic mild hypothermia, following these international resuscitation guidelines. The recommendation is unconscious adult patients with spontaneous circulation after out-of-hospital cardiac arrest should be cooled down to 32 or 34 degrees, not a deep, a mild hypothermia, for 12 or 24 hours when the initial rhythm was ventricular fibrillation. You can do this with non-invasive or invasive techniques, rapid cold like before, or you can use intravascular cooling catheters with an extracorporeal circuit, and this is what we did. We use a flat sheet heat exchanger, it's here, combined with an old hard lung machine that we didn't need for the cardiac surgery unit, and a very thin and long catheter. We stuck a rivet on the front panel in a manner that the knot cannot exceed 25 RPM to make sure that the 2.6 millimeter thin catheter may not be damaged by a high water flow, and thus water may not go into the circulating blood. During my time in that hospital, we used therapeutic hypothermia in 17 cases, 8 female and 9 male patients, with an age of 37 to 84, or 86 even, years, and with different causes of cardiac arrest. And a typical course is shown here. After insertion of the cooling catheter, hypothermia is started, the body temperature falls down to 30 Celsius degree in the first 2 hours, and is maintained at this level for about 20 hours. At the beginning, the lactate level is mostly raised. Lactate is the blue one, 5 millimole per liter, and even may go up a bit. And its normalization at a normal value, round about 3, less than 3 or 2, is a good trigger for us, a good sign of metabolic recovery, a trigger to stop the perfusion. When a catheter is removed, here, the body will rewarm passively in about 4 to 5 hours. We found this technique safe and effective. The advantages, especially for the cardiac unstable patients, you have not to build a tent of cold that you have to remove if you need a resuscitation and so on. And even if the underlying mechanism is not yet fully understood, hypothermia plays a role now not only in cardiac surgery but also in rescue medicine, and furthermore, I couldn't talk about this today, in intensive care of premature infants. In the past, it was a prediction, premature infants has to be warmed. Now, some hospitals change to cool those patients. Well, that's all. Thanks.